Okay, welcome back. I am Bill Merck.
He didn't mumble. He was supposed to mumble.
Oh, he didn't mumble. Hi. And this is Vince McDonald.
It's McDonald.
And today we are
Once
visited again by Pastor
Wonderful.
Greg
The
Ginion.
legendary Greg Ginion.
Okay, so we are going to talk about, you guys are not only pastors, but you're also chaplain of the Maple Shade Police Department.
Yes, Maple Shade Police Chaplains.
Okay, how did that come about?
That came about, let's see, actually it was unfolding. It was in the works when I was interviewing Greg. So you got to go back and listen to whatever episode that was about our journey and how he ended up here. But because it was around 2014 that Chief Fletcher decided that we needed to institute a chaplain program. And what was driving him was what he was seeing in the country. One of the things particularly was in Ferguson, Missouri, with the terrible breakdown. And that he said in one of the settings, he saw like the in the crowd and protesters yelling at the police were clergy members. And he thought, man, we need to proactively find a way to be together. We're both trying to care for the community, and so let's proactively do that. So the reason the Maple Shade Police Chaplain Program has done well really is Chief Chris Fletcher. He really, from the beginning, organized the structure and made it very proactive from the police side. So then he required that we go, as we were implementing the program, Pastor Greg came on board here, and we went to training. There's a training wing of it, and so we went through first a week of training on being a police chaplain, and then dealing with oh good grief, what is it, the
crisis response?
Crisis intervention response. So Chief Fletcher started it, launched it, and because of that, there was a better opportunity for a lot of the officers to kind of say, hey, if it's not the pastor saying they want to come in here, it's us inviting them in. And I think very early in the program, they began to see that there could be real value to that attitude.
What do you guys do as a police chaplain?
Oh yeah, before you jump into that,
Okay.
to get started, like it was, I think we were just kind of sitting in the office, and Chief Fletcher, actually, he was Captain Fletcher at the time, kind of knocked on the door and said, hey, I'd like to have a conversation. What do you guys think about just coming in? And yeah, at the time, he wasn't even looking for chaplains per se, just to say, what do you think about having a conversation about how we can work together as police and clergy to better the community? But the chaplain role is really twofold. He was looking for the idea of us, helping them in any kind of crisis situation, to be able to kind of be a balance between them and the community, but also understanding that the officers themselves, they see and hear and experience a lot of negativity, and just to have us as chaplains be able to come into the station and just be a positive, I guess like a ray of light in with the officers, but also giving them the opportunity, if they just need someone to talk to kind of off the record, off the job a little bit, that they would be able to reach out to us. So anyway, I just wanted to...
Yeah, no, and I think Greg would agree. From the beginning, for our side at least, I think a lot of it had, our confidence was that it was clear from Chief Fletcher, Captain Fletcher initially, that it wasn't a gimmick. It wasn't like, hey, let's get some cheerleaders. Like, that it was a genuine desire to have us be a support to the police and a caring aspect to the community. So and the training aspect was very helpful in that regard, of having a sense on the police end of the weight that these guys carry. Even like, seeing videos of I don't want to do too much, but of officers, who are just 15 minutes removed from an intense encounter, and seeing them on their knees in tears, like just that these are human beings, they're not machines. There's no RoboCop,
Well, I mean, the very first week we had just completed our training. We weren't even really technically activated as chaplains yet, because we had to go through a swearing in process and, be officially recognized. But we completed our training, and there was an incident in town.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about that,
Yeah.
that kind of initiated us and got that credibility right away.
I think it did. We had a call out. It was a woman who, her 2-month-old had passed away, and the reality is, they're police officers have their job to do, and there's not somebody there gently and tenderly explaining what they're doing.
Mhm.
That became part of what our role would be, because here this woman checks on her child, this dear mother, in the crib that she laid down a little bit ago, and there's no life. And so you can imagine just the horror. She's calling 911. The police arrive, and what do they have to do? They have to decide, is this a crime scene or not? Like, that's their first thought. Isn't, how do we comfort this mother? It can't be. Their first thought is this a crime that occurred? And so they immediately have to separate the mother from the child. Mother is taken outside of the apartment, sitting in a lawn chair. That's when I arrive. Now there's a police officer standing at the door, stopping her from going in, and she just wants to be with her child.
Right.
So when I arrive, and she is just, oh, the poor gal, just in a real time of I'll protect some of her privacy, but just heartache. One of the things we were trained initially was, you have two hats. You're wearing the chaplain hat. It is a secular service. You are not there as Pastor Vince. You're there as Chaplain Vince. But if the person that you're dealing with asks to draw upon, in other words, you could put the pastor hat on. And at one point, this dear woman, just in as I said, I'm going to stand here with you. I'm going to be by your side. I'm here to care for you. If there's anything the police are doing that's upsetting you, please let me know. If there's anything I can help you with. Well, my focus was all on her. And eventually she said, is my baby in heaven? And I was able to say, can I share with you from Scripture God's love for your child? And now, wow, to be able to talk with her. Unaware, for me at the moment, my whole focus is on her, unaware of the and I don't mean this me, I mean any of us as chaplains, of the tremendous role that we are being to the police as they're observing it. They're seeing this is a situation they would all have to be dealing with. We bring a pastoral context that we kind of been trained and grown, and so here I am able to be with them, and periodically I would say, well, just hang here a second. I go over, hey guys, I'm just learning. When the medical examiner comes, is she going to be able to hug her baby? And they're like, no, she's not. The medical examiner is in charge, and doesn't matter how many of us are dads and our hearts are breaking for it, we can't allow that. Then you go back and and I think as I'm doing that, caring for her, the officers were seeing, hey, wow.
Well, I mean, the reality is the officers, aren't necessarily trained on how to deal with people in that emotional aspect, but also the weight of it is on them too. A lot of these guys are fathers, right? And so like they're dealing with their own inward emotion, but they can't necessarily outwardly demonstrate it. So they've got to, but then other family members are showing up, because they're hearing about the tragedy and they want to come, and it almost becomes like a hostility. Like, why won't you let us in our house? And then, as chaplains, we're able to say, look, you understand these guys have a job to do. I know it seems cold. I know it seems uncaring, but they're really trying to do it as quickly as they can so that you can be with your family together, and just being able to kind of de-escalate what could become a very hostile situation. And I think having that incident occur right at the very beginning, I think the officers, a lot of them were maybe a little suspicious of like, what are we up to? Why are we here? Are we there to try to, preach to them or just be an annoyance or a hindrance to them? And right away they saw like, wow, this was a benefit, because as other family members are showing up, we're kind of keeping them off to the side so the officers can do their job.
Right.
And then, once the scene was cleared, it's like, now, okay, now you guys can go, back in, and they had appreciation for, what the police had to do. So that was, again, I think it's one of those God ordained incidents where we didn't necessarily look to become chaplains. We got invited into it, and we thought, if the community is inviting us in to
right.
be a presence, and what we already do as pastors to just add this on, we right away were like, absolutely. And then right after our training to have such a tragic incident, which we would never want or desire, but the fact that it happened at that time, and I think both the community and the department kind of collectively were like, oh yeah, this could be a very helpful thing. And then in the almost 10 years since then, it's continued to be a positive
Yeah.
experience.
But that I definitely think, as he said, there was a buy-in from the department side, which you need. You know what I mean? You can't go into an officer and say, "Hey, let's you and I get close, and let me like there has to be a sense of a growing confidence in each other, and uh, and so that was our very first call out. But we have all different kinds. I'm one call out. I believe you and I were both at was a fire, an apartment fire, where as chaplains you arrive and kind of become the magnet for the police and the fire department to send the people to you. Or on that one, it might have been, you might have been there before me, but when I arrived, sometimes the officers say, here's where we have, the homeowners. And then we're saying, hey folks, we're here for you. We're the chaplains. If you have questions, if you have concerns, we want to care about you. We want to help you. And it's fascinating because, somebody go, yeah, can I go get my keys out of, E6? And no, you can't. But, I just remember one guy going, my sneakers, I left my sneakers by the door, please. And so I went over to the fire chief. I'm going, his unit can somebody get his sneakers out? And, you're kind of like a go-between in that sense.
Did they get the sneakers?
Your perspective of that event.
Yeah, I don't remember the sneakers, but just said when people are in crisis or trauma, it's funny how your mind goes to things that you wouldn't think of in a normal, clear situation. And they, but then other times, we had a pet in the, do they know about our pet? Go over, yeah, there's a pet. And obviously, there's concern anytime life is involved that they're going to go in, and that's when they'll make a little extra effort. But yeah, they're not going to go chasing after someone's personal items in the midst of a fire. But that one was a long time because the fire was essentially out, but then it wasn't necessarily safe for anybody to return to their unit. So you have this whole group of people outside that you're trying to comfort, keep engaged, and be like that liaison, go between the firemen, the police, the EMT. Like that was a big one because there's so many agencies involved in a large fire like that. So yeah, those things are unusual.
One of the I say not common, but I mean there have been numerous ones. Is you get a call. We have a deceased person, and in particular, somebody in their 20s, 30, they've overdosed, and they're there, and you come into these people. I remember one of them being 2 a.m, and I'm in their living room with the family, and your role is, I'm here to care for you. I'm here to listen to you. If you have a church, if you want us to reach out to them or whatever, but the reality is the sanctity of your home is going to be disrupted for these next, police are coming in, they're taking pictures, they're gathering evidence, they're looking, I'm just being realistic, they're looking at the wrappers of the heroin to see, is this are they, and they're dealing with that end of it. And there is a reality, and the police department, what I appreciate is that they know this. There is a reality. There's a coldness to that. You have people coming in your home in this moment of tragedy, and they're photographing this and that, and they're picking up things and dusting. And so when you're with the parents, you're just trying to say, hey, all of this adds to just the horror of this moment for you. So if somebody's doing something that's upsetting you, tell me. But it may be that there's nothing we can do about it, or maybe they can show you some particular concern, whatever it may be. And and that's again, the call outs can come in all different ways. Sometimes it's just, you know, it's they need to inform somebody that their loved one has passed. And I don't know if you want to share any of those you've been on, or
Yeah, I mean, those are hard too, because you're showing up with the worst possible news
Yeah, right.
you can give to somebody, and they're not, of course, expecting it. And you feel bad because the officer, that's part of his job every day, delivering bad news.
Is it the same person?
No,
Like, I mean, there's the movie Woody Harrelson, The Messenger.
no.
Where he goes-
Whoever's on, it's
Nah,
their
it's-
job for the
Yeah, it
army.
varies. It kind of, if it's on your shift and it's your it's your call, you got to go.
Now, do you guys then get called, or how does that work?
Yeah.
And are you guys the only two chaplains,
Yeah.
or there are others?
No, there's when we started out, there was a fairly large group of us over the years.
I think we
dwindled down a bit.
7 at one point.
Yeah,
Okay.
We had a rabbi and
yeah, but right now there's 4 of us.
Okay.
Myself, Pastor Vince. It's Deacon Michael Stinsman, who used to work here at OLPH, but has since he's moved over to Sacred Heart in Palmyra.
Okay.
And then Pastor Anne-Marie Cook, who was the minister at the Lutheran church here in town. She has since left that location, is still local, but not in Maple Shade. I believe she lives in Marlton now, but she still participates as a chaplain.
So do you guys get called then?
Yeah, we have like an on-call schedule. So right now, like, we each cover 1 week during the month.
Okay.
And again, we for the most part, if you're on that week and the call comes in, Pastor Vince is like the kind of the head chaplain where the calls kind of
in
come.
the beginning.
Yeah,
In the beginning, it was, but the officers now have access to our contacts for all 4 of us.
Okay.
So, because there were times where the call would come into me, but I didn't get the call, and so they're just waiting. Where now, if they call me and I don't respond, they can go.
yeah, they usually go down the list, but they have the rotation, so they're supposed to look and see who's the one on call. But they'll go down and try to get a hold of somebody and just say, hey, if it's not you, can you get us, whoever's supposed to be here as a chaplain? And there's other times where there's a call, and it might be one of us on duty, but it's a Catholic family, and so they're requesting, some Catholic services, so they'll request, Deacon Michael. But yeah, like you were saying, like, I always feel bad for the officers because some guys are really good at it, right? Going in and being professional, and they'll deliver the news. And other guys, you can tell, like, they don't really want to do it, so they'll ask you to kind of, can you take the lead? And so I always follow the officer's lead. Whatever they want us to do, we do. And I will say, I have not had a bad experience with an officer yet, where you feel like sometimes said you're trying to deliver bad news, and if you're too cold, like if you're too business-like, it's not received well. And I think the detectives are usually the leads on these type of, when you're doing the death notification. And as a group, they're really, it's not something, I guess you say, you want to be good at, but they have a level of compassion and caring and humanity to them that I think not every agency has. I think Maple Shade is, because of the leadership and the training that they do, I think they prepare for, worst case scenarios. And I think their compassion really comes through.
I think one of the things that Greg just said that I want to affirm is we genuinely have felt a genuine desire throughout the department to do the right thing, to care for everybody, no matter who they are. Like, our integrity wouldn't allow us to just be kind of used as like a puppet or something. Like, your concern for a lot of these officers is, I don't, I may get into a little bit of statistics here, but is obviously there's a national, you hear about when an officer shoots somebody or whatever nationally. And you can have, if you ask people how many police officers, fire their gun, it literally 1% of the police officers in our country fire their gun their entire career. Now, that 1% may fire it more than once. You know what I mean?
Right.
But 99% of the officers in our country never fire their weapon at a person their entire career. But so you can have this national message, and the police officers, and we have less and less people applying because they can feel this sense of everyone looks at us like we're the bad guy. And now look, there are corrupt officers. There are officers who you would say ruin it for that have the wrong motive or this or that. But we have been convinced in our department, and that's all I can speak for, that the majority, I mean, all that I've come across, there's a genuine sense of, I'm going to care for you no matter who you are, and I'm going to treat you with respect. And, so I find it easy to be supportive of our department because of what I've seen. I haven't seen disrespect toward the community.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think something Fletcher, Chief always tells us, his people is, do the right thing even when no one's looking, right? And then you don't have to worry about, getting caught on camera or caught, doing something you're not supposed to. Do the right thing, do it no one's looking. Integrity. Work with integrity, and I do. I think I admire Chief, but also the officers as a whole. Is I think they desire to be, people of integrity.
So you guys basically, you talk to the homeowners, you talk to the police, you do the death notices.
Yeah.
What else
And
is
so
involved in this?
So in that process, for crisis moments, the police arrive on the scene and will often, okay, someone has died in the home. They'll ask the family, would you like us to get a chaplain? Family may say no, and that's where it ends. If the family says yes, then they'll activate a chaplain. For the death notifications, that's different. And often that is Palmyra calls Maple Shade and says, John Smith, we just found him passed away in the ShopRite parking lot. Here's his next of kin, and they're in Maple Shade. In that regard, they'll reach out to us. Some of them will ahead of time. And some of the officers weren't ready to, but they'll reach out and say, would you go with us? And then as Greg said, you're knocking on the door, and the person's answering the door, and they're seeing some officers and me or the chaplain, and all right, this is not what I wanted. You know what I mean? I literally had stood there when we knocked on the door, and a woman literally, as we said, can we come in, just dropped to her knees and say, I knew this day was coming, But then there can be a crisis. Like we had a shooting at the Iron Hill Brewery. Not going to go into the details, obviously, but a couple of years back. That one was just, Chief Fletcher saying, hey,
all hands on
deck, all hands on deck, and you get all the chaplains, as many as we can out here because we are now in a setting, where it is, where you have apartments over here, you got BJs, you got this, you got that. People could be there. There's no way to cordon off this whole area. So as we're trying to do that, you know what I mean? And it's an active scene on another call, and I want him to be able to share some, but Chief Fletcher and I were literally headed to a meeting, training somewhere, and we're in the car early in the morning, and he hears he's listening to the radio, and I am too, but his ears are
police radio. Yeah.
His ears are hearing it better than me. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, he's listening to
us.
Yeah,
he's listening to the podcast,
and he can tell one of the officers this is not a typical call, is in real distress, and he was like, "Look, he was putting on his vest. I think he pulled one out of the back for me. And was like, look, you stay in the vehicle. This is all hands on scene." And it basically was a brutal assault that was unfolding in one of the apartments within our town's borders. And we pulled up on the scene, And he just said, "Look, you're in the car until I tell you." And what was fascinating, and I don't mean fascinating in a fun way, because it was the person who was assaulted eventually passed, but I'm hearing all of the radio chatter through his car, and I'm watching it unfold in front of me, and hearing, these officers. And I was very proud of them as two of them are trying to give life support to this woman while the person that committed the assault is fleeing, and so others are going after the person with the assault, and there's a dog on the scene, and now the dog is coming after the police, and I'm listening to them all talking to each other, and it's like I'm watching an episode in front of me, and ultimately the perpetrator was apprehended, and then Chief Fletcher was, "All right, one out, Vince. We need you to deal with the family." There were several on that were involved in it.
Yeah. And not every, I mean, some of the things we do as chaplains is more in-house. We get involved with, well, when there is a crisis or especially if they're in particularly traumatizing, for the officers themselves. We've had some, unfortunately, deaths or traumas that involve young children or infants. And what we do sometimes is what's called a debrief, where they'll bring us in as chaplains, and the administration stays out of it. And you kind of, as a group, they just kind of talk about the incident and kind of break it down and try to help them process it. So that's something that chaplains have been involved with. We get involved in their training, which can be fun, actually. Yeah, we do some
active. I want to get more into that after the break, but
okay. So we do training, and then a big part of what Chief Fletcher envisioned for the chaplains was to help. When I say community relations, of again trying to have positive interaction with the community instead of it always being negative.
Do you feel that it has caused that a positive?
Yeah, well, one of the main things that he started soon after we started chaplaincy was the National Night Out. Now, he didn't start that as an event. It's a kind of a nationwide thing, but Maple Shade's involvement started at the time that we started chaplains, which National Night Out is it's the first Tuesday in August. And the idea there is to build community relations so that the people can come out. They usually it's more like a carnival atmosphere, right? You have some games and some rides and some event, activities for the kids. You have a bunch of vendors who are in the community, kind of give a chance to share about what it is that they do in the community. There's food, there's drink, music. Past couple of years, they've gotten the high school kids involved with doing some like a talent show with some singing and music and dance. And it's Chief's real good at giving the chaplains credit, but he's the driving force of making sure it happens. He organizes everybody. He gets the sponsors behind it, and it's 100% free. And so it's all donated or people give donations.
Recent National Nights Out, Misty Weiss has also she's been our community affairs officer. She's been heavily involved. She's retiring, so.
Yeah. But the event itself, the whole purpose of it was to have that. And it's not really necessarily just for police, because he invites, fire, EMT, and sometimes even other, Burlington County agencies to come and have their vehicles there, and the kids can get into a squad car, climb up on a fire truck, or see an inside of an ambulance. And again, to just kind of let them know, like, hey, these, first of all, we're real people, but two, like our main job is to protect and to serve the community. So we don't want it to be a
good slogan. They should use that.
Yeah, that probably, protect and serve. Yeah,
maybe serve and protect.
Nah, I would stick with protect and serve.
Yeah.
I'd put it on the side of a car or something. On that note, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll get out of the heaviness of it. We'll kind of have a little bit more fun with what you guys do with chaplaining and
chaplaincy.
Chaplaincy? Is that really what it is?
Looking for, yeah.
It wasn't the word I was looking for. I didn't know that was a word.
Well, now you know.
Now I know a new word, and that's
the key is it's spelled CHAPLAIN. A lot of people make it Charlie Chaplin, like LIN, but anyhow.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, see, we're learning all kinds of stuff today.
Welcome to Emmanuel Baptist Church, where our focus has been building strong lives in Jesus Christ since 1925, right here in Maple Shade, New Jersey. With 2 Sunday services at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., you can choose the time that works best for you. And if you have children, our Greenhouse Kids Ministry and Nursery are available during the 11 a.m. service, so you can worship without distractions. But that's not all. On Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., we offer Sunday school classes for all ages. And if you're looking for a midweek pick-me-up, we have a variety of events on Wednesday nights. For more information on all of our programs and events, visit our website at ibclife.org. Follow us on social media and check out our weekly bulletin. And there's one more way to stay connected with us. Download our Church Center app. With this convenient app, you can stay up to date on all of our events and register for programs. Emmanuel Baptist Church, building strong lives in Jesus Christ.
Just come, hey, we're back. Yay. Okay, so we were talking about, what was the word again?
Training. Chaplain training.
Chaplaincy.
Chaplaincy.
Come on, help me out. Yeah. Did you know that word? You didn't know that word.
Chaplaincy?
Yeah.
The word chaplain, and if you're going to be the
chaplain. What?
So infancy, an infant, and there's infancy.
Yeah, okay.
So we're like baby chaplains.
Baby chaplains. Hey, back with my 2 baby chaplains here.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, so you guys do trainings.
Mm-hmm.
And you do them in the school and you do them at our church, right?
Well, we
did it at the church. Okay.
Yeah, that was fun. So we do.
Well, let's talk about some fun stuff with this.
Yeah, like police obviously they have a required amount of.
I know they're serious, but you're
not. No. Every year they have to do scenario training. So they run through different and the administrative team that puts together the trainings. They try to make it practical, so it's stuff that the officers have maybe seen the year previously, and maybe they didn't respond well to, or they're just trying to kind of tool around with how could we have responded better. So they call it active shooter training, and not every scenario involves shooting, but some of them do. So you have to gear up with protective gear, but they'll use simulation rounds, which are the weapons are the same as they would use as far, I mean, not the same, but the same weight, the same type, but they only dispense, I wouldn't say dummy rounds. It's basically, it's a cap, it has gunpowder in it.
Paintball?
Yeah, it's kind of like paintball, but it leaves a mark so you can see it hitches. Yeah, it's harder than you expect. Okay. So what they use chaplains for, and sometimes it's some other folks, is just actors, in scenarios, especially if there's a crowd or it's some scenario where, it's like, oh, we need a disturbed individual. That's where Pastor Vince shines. I'll let him tell you about those where he's, dealing with some kind of issue to try to get, to engage the police. And the whole time the police are there, they're trying to decide, is this a scenario where I need to use, deadly force? And 99% of the time it would not be. So it's trying to help them evaluate how and when do I make that decision, and when I do, what do I do? But obviously, if there's scenarios where they need someone to be a threat, that's holding some type of weapon, whether it's an edge weapon like a knife or a firearm, sometimes they like it when the chaplains volunteer for that, because then we get to run around and they just unload, their simulation rounds on us. And they like moving targets. And Pastor Vince has been lit up more than once.
Well, go ahead. So you're disturbed?
Well, no.
I always wanted to say that on the podcast.
No, that usually there'll be a scenario, and it's, dealing with what they would refer to as an EDP, an emotionally disturbed person. Because let's face it, a lot of their practical dealings are with folks, they're not getting called to the happy party where everybody's having a good time.
Unless the noise is too loud.
They're often dealing with somebody who is not responding normally, or is paranoid, or has some sort of, issue. And so, for me, they kind of carved out that would be my role sometimes, to just, have down a character that's, you know, going to be just like he said, is this a guy that's a threat? Is this a guy that we should just talk down? And sometimes, so for example, when we trained in the church, it allowed them to be in a scenario where, do I stop the service? Do I empty out the pews around this guy? In other words, do I need to be concerned about the safety of others around, you know, or can I handle it? Can I ask this person to leave? Can I get them out? You know, but so I try, you know, you're trying to be realistic. You're not trying to be some crazy episode of Hill Street Blues. You're trying to,
except that he creates those.
well,
The time he decided to get upset during a church service, and
yes,
when the officers came on scene, they quickly realized it wasn't a use of force incident, but it was an incident where they would have to try to remove the person who was going through their crisis and keep everyone else safe. And Pastor Vince proceeded to run around very quickly, and then started crawling under the pews.
Well, we trained at another church in town, and they don't have carpet; they have just a marble floor. Ooh. And so it allowed me, as the officers were coming, to get down on the floor and to just basically pull myself pew by pew. And by the time I was done, they're looking where I was, and I popped up all the way over here, and even for the officers.
Except, I forget who it was. I think it might have been Davis, who grabbed you by the foot and just dragged.
Yeah. But well, you know, we're saying it's the fun, but you're obviously, the training is so key because you're trying to, you know, just keep them ready to engage in these situations. I mean, as I said, and we all know, there are officers who just shouldn't be officers. There are those who have a prejudice, or those who this or that, and
not in Maple Shade.
No.
In general, police force.
I didn't mean Maple Shade. I meant in our country, and there are people who have had terrible interaction with the police. So when I'm talking about support for them, the police, it's a two-way street. The police know we are there to support them, but they also know we're not going to support them in mistreatment of individuals. So it's really a benefit on the community side and the police side. There are those who have had terrible interaction and see all the police one way, just like, you know, some people see all the clergy one way or whatever. But in the training, though, you're trying. So there is you know, he said getting lit up, but there is an exchange of these live gunfire rounds. Our prayer is that an officer never has to.
But, and that's why we're so happy to be part of the training.
Because what you don't want is an officer who hesitates and loses their life because of the fear of what would happen if I take somebody else's life. Like, so you're trying in that part of the training to help them be ready to make, when their lives are at stake or the life of somebody else, be ready to take action. And I think our officers do a great job of taking that very serious and the training serious. You know what I mean? And I consider it a privilege to be a support in that.
Yeah, well, it's funny you said, they do take it seriously, and like you said, adrenaline can't help get pumping when you get into a scenario, especially it's something that they've experienced maybe in a real life scenario previously, and now they're trying to recreate something. But when weapons get drawn, adrenaline goes up. Your pulse quickens, and the attitude and aggression that you see, and it's necessary. But we're not used to dealing with the officers on that side, right? They're usually real jovial, real laid back, real ready to laugh and have fun, and when we're just with them interacting on a normal basis. But then you get these scenarios where use of force is required, and then they're amped up, they're running down halls, they're doing checks in rooms, and they know someone is possibly hiding in a classroom or in a dark corner. And then when the scenario unfolds and they realize it is a shoot scenario, like and sometimes we've been kind of like, oh, this isn't play. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like we think it's kind of fun and games because we're not used to doing this as part of our job. And then when they have to go, on, and you're kind of like, wow, I remember doing a scenario where they were doing a car stop and I was the person in the car, and I was supposed to, at some point during that stop, pull out a weapon and see if I could surprise the officer and, get them to, shoot at them, get a shot off. And I'll tell you, I didn't even get my, I was trying to hide the weapon under my lap on the front seat, but the officers were on it so fast that I was getting hit before I was even able to raise. I know you had an incident where you thought you were going to be able to get a weapon out and fire before they even know you had one. That was in the school, right? We were doing high school.
Yeah. And I just want to emphasize that aspect. And I know, just that these officers, and I really mean this, and I again, just in their support, they could literally go from a scene where they're very physical, and then they're involved in the next scene in a domestic disturbance. Then they're in another scene that's and that what doesn't require all that intensity, but like for the people in that next scene, they don't know that they were wrestling somebody to the ground over here, and they were in between a husband and a wife here, and these are human beings. Is all I'm saying. They're human beings who, sometimes it's hard to not carry from one scene to the next. So now you're coming into a scene that you have to be able to shut off all that you just were involved in.
So then they're human beings, but you guys are human beings too. So have you guys had to deal with doing something as heavy as telling somebody, and then coming to church and doing a sermon or doing...
In reality, like I said, that couple of the scenes that we've talked about, you can't help but be affected. We're fathers too. We're men. And we have to remember to kind of debrief each other. Like, hey, you doing, how are you doing? How's this hanging with you? Like I've had to go on locations where I see dead people. It's not something that I would normally do. And some of them are fairly, gruesome.
Yeah.
Right. So it's something, it's some kind of trauma. Then you have to kind of find a way to deal with it too. And I think the officers have actually been helped with that because they see it way more than we do. And sometimes it's humor, sometimes it's trying to blow off steam that way. But the idea is like don't try to push it down, get it out, even if it's in a maybe like a dark humorous kind of way of just kind of that's how you process through some of your feelings.
Do you guys think that you've been better pastors because of it, or has it changed you that way, or is it just almost...
Well, I think it certainly impacts you. It has exposed me certainly to more traumatic moments, but if you're a pastor long enough, you have them as well. I mean, we've been called to things as pastors in the church where you're called into a moment with a family that's, whether you're
talking about like a church member.
Yeah, you're sitting on the curb at the ER with them as their loved one has just been rushed in there or whatever. But I think it has expanded our ability to care for the community and therefore be aware of the community, have a sense of, Brett and I we were at the Blue Monkey.
Oh yeah,
she
Blue Monkey is a restaurant.
Yes, and Bill hooked me on.
And
the smash burger.
Yeah,
oh man. Anyhow, but
I've eaten there.
There were two women, actually, two older women, senior women, sitting with each other.
You're a senior.
Well, yeah. I didn't want it to be like they were 30-year-olds.
Oh, okay.
And I looked and I recognized the one woman, and I was like, and just as I'm saying, oh wait, do we know one another? It hit me. A couple months ago, I was at her front door to tell her that her husband had died tragically. As I said it, I thought, oh. And she went, yes, you came to my home, when my husband passed. And I said, I'm sorry. My mind was trying to catch up. And the woman next to her goes, and you came to my home too several years ago when my husband passed. And I walked away, I said to Greta, I don't, these are two lives that I would have never had contact with apart from that role.
As the messenger of death.
Yeah, no, but but I meant
they see you walking down the street, they're like,
here it comes.
no, but I meant like, and I don't mean this.
Jimmy.
There's no pat on the back. I meant the woman kind of one put her hand on mine and said, "Thank you for being so caring." And as I'm walking away, I'm thinking, when I became pastor, I never imagined that would be part of the role that God expanded.
Yeah,
but that's also because you're an extrovert. That would never have happened to you because you're an introvert. He would never go up to somebody and be like, "Yeah, I recognize you."
No, that's not entirely true.
No?
I think
Okay.
I would probably pause longer than he did to actually figure out where I maybe knew him from. That's just where we're different.
Right.
But no, I've had a similar experience where I've been in a community and people say, "Hey, you did this or this," and what I appreciate about the chaplaincy is we have opportunity to do ministry that we would never have available
Right.
to us if we were only pastors in the church, because we just wouldn't be given the opportunity or the invitation in, and it's allowed for, and even beyond the people we get called out to maybe do a call with, people like EMTs, firefighters, town council, people who work in the township building, in the school district. Like there's bridges to all these places now because of the chaplaincy that we have. And as a result, I think we've built relationships with a lot of people in town who have positions of authority or leadership, but just in a personal way, where I wouldn't necessarily call it ministry, but yeah, there are people who have had personal tragedies and they'll reach out to us to talk, or possibly even to do a funeral. We one of the things we do as chaplains is if an officer is hurt on the job, or not on the job, they're in the hospital or they have some surgery or something, and this isn't something we generate, but we kind of are the go-between, because they have their union, and they'll oftentimes give them a gift card or some kind of something to help them kind of get through that initial stage, something for the family. So we get to go by and drop off a gift card, which is a good thing. It's just that kind of act of goodwill and cheer, and it's really being offered by their own union, but we're kind of the face of it, and we get to deliver it. Or we've gone to the hospital and we visited people, and just to be able to cheer them up. I mean, even our chief who was in the hospital after having open heart surgery, to be able to just go in and then in some cases we'll pray with them if that's what they want, or just to try to pick up their spirits or let them know something good is going on.
When he talks about community relations, one of the things that came out early with the chaplain program was in communication, was as we're trying to, community policing, this and that, we verbalized, hey, Sunday mornings, you got several hundred people in between the Catholic Church and us and the Lutheran Church at the time, all within the same, if officers are able, have them stop in. And that, we knew when it began, people would be like, why are they here? What's going on? So, but ultimately now our folks have gotten so used to on a Sunday morning, and I'm grateful to the police, because it also, first of all, it allows folks to be like, hi, how are you? And show their support. Yeah. Because I'm often saying to the police, like, hey, there's a lot of support for you. A lot of people know it'd be a different world if you weren't here, But it also is, if somebody came in here with the wrong motive and all of a sudden, who knows when a police officer is going to come in here? You know what I mean?
Right.
It allows a sense of, a mutual, care.
And again, human nature, right? They experience a lot of negativity on the job, and people are reacting to them in a negative way. When they come here, it's all positive, right? People are, hey, good job, or thanks for being here. And the officers told me over and over, they love coming here on a Sunday because it's all positive.
Yeah.
And
we have refreshments down.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I hate them coming and getting patted down each week, but other than that, it's fine.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. I don't enjoy every part of being a chaplain, but I've enjoyed being a chaplain, and just the camaraderie that we've now. I feel like there was that initial sense of, I wouldn't say suspicion, but like any new person brought into a closed group, right. Kind of like, what are you guys about? And I think a lot of it, and Chief was really wise in allowing us to participate in those trainings and kind of getting in with our sleeves rolled up, and they saw us as people, and we weren't there for any other reason than this, how we can be a benefit. Like, there has built a real camaraderie, I think, between us and the officers, so that when an incident arises and they have to call, like I feel like we work together. They don't have to question us. They know our role, they know their role, and we work together. But it has, I can say that, I've developed real friendships with several of the staff and officers over there at the department, and I value that.
That's awesome. So, if you see these two come into your house with an officer, no. What? I can't end it on a little bit of humor.
Sure.
Let's have fun. So, please subscribe. Please like us.
Thank you
you guys for being chaplains. Thank you.
Feel free to give us feedback. Okay.
Don't just give them feedback. Yeah, I don't want.
No, I mean, even if they on the Outside the Sanctuary Facebook page, if you want to say, hey, how about a discussion about this or that?
Yeah, we'd love to hear it, and we love to hear from you. But that's all we got. So we'll see you next time.